let me sort of describe my overall policy. I mean, what I've said is that we would put a cap and trade system in place that is as aggressive, if not more aggressive, than anybody else's out there. I was the first to call for 100% auction on the cap and trade system, which means that every unit of carbon or greenhouse gases was emitted would be charged to the polluter. That will create a market in which whatever technologies are out there that are being presented, whatever power plants that are being built, that they would have to meet the rigors of that market and the ratcheted down caps that are imposed every year. So if somebody wants to build a coal-powered plant, they can. It's just that it will bankrupt them because they're going to be charged a huge sum for all that greenhouse gas that's being emitted.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. I have a story now that isn't that long, but sometimes it's not the length alone that should have the impact that is necessary for the message to be received. This piece is mainly from Breitbart. I don't think you're going to believe this, but it's true. The links will be on my site. What I've done is linked a number of stories together that combined paint, well, how shall I say this? Well, at best, it will be a difficult future for this country, so dependent on its ties to the EU for its economic survival that they dare not take any other course. Here are the pieces. The first one is entitled Climate Emergency. Ireland, yes, wait for it, set to ban private cars while planning mass third world migration. You heard that right. Drivers will be forced off the roads in Ireland and the population backed into high-density cities under long-awaited climate plan, which will revolutionise people's lifestyle and behaviours according to the local media. Nudge policies such as huge tax hikes as well as bans and red tape outlined in the plan will pave the way to a, quote, vibrant island of zero carbon emissions by 2050, according to the government, which last year committed to boost the country's 4.7 million strong population by a further million with mass migration in order to avert a climate apocalypse, unquote. The government plans to force people out of private cars because they are the biggest offenders for emissions, unquote. According to the Transport Minister, Shane Ross, whose proposals, which include banning fossil fuel vehicles from towns and cities nationwide, are posed to cripple ordinary motorists, local media reports. Launching the plan in Dublin, leader Leo Varadkar outlined his vision for Ireland of higher density cities consisting of populations whose lifestyles and behaviours have been totally transformed by the carrot and stick policies outlined in the climate plan. Our approach will be to nudge people and businesses to change behaviour and adapt to new policies through incentives, disincentives, regulations and information, the globalist Prime Minister said. We are going to change how electricity is produced and consumed, how our homes and workplaces are heated, the way we travel, the types of vehicles we purchase, and how food is produced. Here's the next piece. Put an empty space to better use. Irish urge to house migrants in spare beds. Irish urge to house migrants in spare beds. Homeowners in Ireland have been asked to pledge spare rooms as part of the government's Irish Refugee Protection Programme. It's about vibrant, populated city centres livable with excellent amenities and transport, as we embrace higher densities. The document, which is unveiled on Tuesday, features more than 180 measures to decarbonise the Irish economy, including making private car ownership prohibitively expensive, with petrol, that's gas, and diesel car sales banned by 2030, a date by which it says general carbon tax will increase from €20 a tonne to €80 a tonne. In addition, the plans demand that coal and peat-fired power stations are replaced with wind farms and other green energy sources in order to meet the requirements that 70% of the electricity will be generated from renewables by 2030. Here's the next piece. Irish people fear country changing too quickly, too politically correct, while Ireland's establishment backs social justice and open borders. A poll reveals most citizens feel uneasy about its transformation. But plans to dramatically slash carbon emissions by ditching tried and tested energy sources such as coal, nuclear in favour of renewables will necessarily result in a collapse in living standards, according to scientists including Cambridge engineering professor Michael Kelly, who has previously explained that such proposals represent, quote, total madness. In energy terms, the current generation of renewable energy technologies alone will not enable a civilized modern society to continue, he asserted in a peer-reviewed paper published in 2016, pointing out that renewables such as solar, wind and hydropower supply just 7% of the electricity needs globally, while the rate at which fossil fuels are growing is 7 times that at which low carbon energies are growing. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? The Hughes Medal decorated physicist cautioned the call to decarbonise the global economy by 80% by 2050 can now only be described as glib, in my opinion, as the underlying analysis shows it is only possible if we wish to see large parts of the population die from starvation, destitution or violence in the absence of enough low-carbon energy to sustain society. Well, there you have it. I have been talking for at least a couple of years, if not longer, about Agenda 2030. People out there think I'm crazy. Well, what do you think that was I just read to you? That was Agenda 2030 being enacted in a real country. And you heard what the experts said, that things would result as mass starvation, collapse of society, not enough food, starvation. These people are crazy, but they're not crazy if they want to depopulate the West and repopulate it. Well, you join the dots. Why are we having mass immigration when they want to decarbonise? Doesn't make sense, does it? One contradicts the other. I keep saying this. Someone has to make those wind farms. Someone has to make those solar panels. How are you going to make that stuff if you don't have steel plants, plastics manufacturing? All the raw materials need to be gathered. Are we going to rely on China to make everything? What happens if we do that? If we say, well, we're not going to make anything anymore because it pollutes the atmosphere, how are you going to make solar panels? And if we're dependent on another country, whichever country we're in, for our basic requirements for life, what's to stop them turning off the tap? These people are idiots, but maybe they're not. Maybe this is part of their real plan, that they want to control us. Because if they have control of the spigots, they can turn it all off. And there's nothing we can do, because we won't have an army, an air force, a navy, a police force, nothing. But we will have our carbonless bicycles. And you'll be able to look out of your 96th floor window and think, oh, what a beautiful land. I wish I could live in it. What a sad state of affairs that anybody's even have to think like this. This is crazy. We got to stop this stuff. We've got to stop being politically correct. We've got to call a spade and a communist a communist. Agenda 2030 is communism. We don't need communism. Trudeau in Canada, God knows who in the UK, and the Democrats in the US, and God knows who else in Europe. We've got to stop these people. We've got to call them out. We've got to take our countries back. In Canada, we have an election coming up in October. We need to ask our politicians some hard questions. Do they agree with these policies? Are they in favour of decarbonising our country? Is this what the Democrats have in mind for the United States? Maybe you should be asking that question in America. Maybe we should be asking that question in Canada. I don't care which party you are. I don't want to be decarbonised. I want to drive my car, my truck. I want to go and buy gas when I want it. I want to cut my grass when I want it. I want to buy clothes when I want it. I want to go on vacation when I want to. I don't want some little bureaucrat somewhere telling me it's Wednesday, I can't drive my car. And by the way, it's another $200 we've put the price up. When are we going to stand up to these people? When are we going to do this? When are we going to say, you work for us, we don't work for you, we don't want decarbonising, we don't want any more migrants, and we don't believe in carbon tax or climate change? Let's have that debate without Canada elections interfering, without Twitter interfering, without Facebook interfering, without YouTube interfering. Let's have a debate on freedom and free speech, and let's see who's in favour of that. And then we can call a spade, or what I say, a communist. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, and email. We are also on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a twist, and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on the links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio. And please click on the like button. And you can now hear a weekend review of our podcasts on WHBJ DB, News Talk Radio. Join us and many others. And you can find all our podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the Morning Moments tab.